Karibu SolidWorks Tanzania. This is a new series na iko focused on industrial automation. As we know, industrial automation ni ile means ambayo tunajaribu kupunguza human machine interaction badala ya watu kufanya baadhi ya activities kwenye processing. Tunakuwa na machines kama robot, manipulators and other things like that ambazo zinafanya kazi with very minimal human interaction. So in this series, tutafanya PLC programming with an assist of Factory.io. So Factory.io ni simulator ambayo inakusaidia kutengeneza a visual plant, na ukitengeneza visual plant unaweza ukafanya layout tofauti tofauti na ukatengeneza a PLC program language ambayo unaweza ukai download into the PLC of your visual plant, alafu ukafanya monitoring, lakini ukafanya running na kuona how your program is behaving with your plant simulator. Okay, so this series tutaangalia an introduction to PLC programming, lakini tutaangalia pia a little bit of digital electronics kwa sababu they correlate, and then tutatumia Siemens TIA portal kama software ya kufanya PLC. So unaweza ukaingia tu kwenye Google ukaenda labda get into PC ukatafuta software ya Siemens PLC programming ama Siemens TIA portal. And then pia unaweza ukaingia Google ukatafuta hiyo software ya Factory.io na ukazidownload ukainstall into your computer, and then you'll be ready to go. I hope you enjoyed this series and let's dive in. Okay, so in this presentation, tutaenda kuangalia what exactly is a PLC, what are the basic components of a PLC, then how does it work, and then brand ambazo ni famous kwenye PLCs, and then the typical applications of such PLCs. Tutaangalia pia many more details on PLCs as we go through the slides. Okay, so a PLC is a programmable logic controller. It's normally a digital computer used for automation of industrial processes. So shortly unaweza sema tu PLC ni a digital computer. Inatumika sana kwenye automation ya process za viwanda. Let's say it's a bottling industry. Kuna PLCs ambazo zinakuwa kama brain of the bottling units, right? So PLCs are normally very reliable. Okay, that's why they are mostly used. Zaidi ya asilimia 90 ya all process automations zinafanywa na PLC controllers. They are very rugged, right? They are rigid, like not easily breaking, and they are very they are also reprogrammable. Like unaweza kuwa na industrial ama plant layout fulani, unaweza ukabadilisha some parameters, okay, ukabadilisha kabisa mfumo mzima wa activity ambazo zilikuwa zina take place kwenye process of your industry, and then you can upload again to your PLC controller ama logic controller, and then it performs whatever you have tasked it to do. Okay, so what are the basic components of a PLC? So a PLC first has a CPU. This is like now the brain of your PLC, central processing unit. It's like the chip on your computer. It's the brain of your computer, right? And then we have input output modules, right? And then we have a power supply in order to give power to your PLC domain. And then we have a programming device. Inaweza ikawa personal computer ama human machine interface. Unaweza uka edit some parameters there. So how exactly a PLC works? So first we'll have an input. Okay, so let's say you have a plant. Let's say tuseme tuna conveyor. Okay, tuna conveyor ambayo hii conveyor labda ina sensor on the entry and a sensor on the exit. Umeona? So on the entry, let's say labda on the entry side, sensor ikisense labda a box is coming, so a box has been mounted, maybe tunafanya processing ambayo ni logic execution ambayo inafanyika kwenye CPU, tunasema okay, since at the entry says there is a box. So if there is a box, then let's say your program says if you see a box, start the conveyors. So manake input pale ni sensor imeona boxi, inaweza kuwa capacitive sensor, inaweza kuwa proximity, inaweza kuwa ultrasonic etc. So imeona boxi, imepeleka taarifa kwenye processing unit ambayo ni CPU. CPU inafanya logic execution according to the program you have installed. Kama umeiambia ukiona box start conveyor, so the CPU will say okay, start conveyor, na itatuma this signal to start the conveyor to the outputs. So the outputs ni kama actuators, kama motors, kwa mfano motor ya hiyo conveyor, right? Ama kama ilikuwa ukiona sensor switch on the lights, then itatuma signal kwenye lights, alright? So a sensor has seen a box, goes to the processing unit. Processing unit inatumia program to send an action to the output, and then the output performs what it has been told by the processing unit ambao ni CPU. Then the PLC scan cycle. So as PLC scan cycle ni kwamba it keeps on looking all over the program from the input processing output in very fast speed, like let's say in milliseconds, keep scanning what's happening kuhakikisha kwamba procedures ambazo zitakuwa zinatakiwa kuwa repetitive they are done. Kwa mfano let's say umeka box kwenye sensor ya entry, okay, at an interval ambao haifanani, labda umeweka at time x and then at time y. So scan cycle iko pale kuhakikisha kwamba box uliweka at time x it has been taken care of, okay, imefanyiwa kazi. Then scan cycle ikija mara ya pili inahakikisha kwamba box iliwekwa at time y also imefanyiwa kazi. So scan cycle iko pale kuhakikisha kwamba your program is running smoothly, ama your PLC works in the right way. So what are the common PLC brands? So don't worry, tuta dive deeper into those inputs, CPUs and all of the rest. Tuta dive deeper soon. So common brands, hizi ndo brand ambazo ni famous sana kwenye kutengeneza hizi PLC controllers, right? So the first one we have Siemens S7 series. This is widely used in many of the processing industries, bottling industries, cement industries, and other automation industries. And then we have Allen Bradley, like Macrologics and Contrologics, very famous too. Alafu tuna Mitsubishi FX and Q series, lakini pia we have Schneider Electric, the Modicon series. So normally, don't worry about the brands. Normally, the programming language, the PLC programming language is the same. Like ukishaelewa principles of writing the ladder logics, let's say, it goes the same regardless of the brand. Ukishajua tu jinsi ya kuandika program is the same way. All right? Okay, so what are the typical application of PLCs? Where do we apply PLCs? So PLCs are widely applied in manufacturing and assembling lines. Okay, packaging and sorting systems. Ukienda kwenye viwanda vingi kama vya bottling industries, kama viwanda vya soda, viwanda vya beer, viwanda vya cement, unaona kunakuwa kuna packaging sections, right? Na inakuwa ni biggest part of the plant mara nyingi. So kule ndo mahali ambapo labda wanapanga boxes ama crates, wana feed in let's say bottles, okay? Wanafanya pia sorting, let's say wanafanya sorting let's say by height ama by color ama by weight, right? Pia inatumika kwenye HVAC and building automation. So HVAC, this is heating, ventilation and air conditioning. Kwa mfano control hali ya hewa labda kwenye malls, unakuta labda inahakikisha kwamba temperature iko maintained let's say at 24 or 25 kulingana na hali ya hewa ambayo ipo outside. Kama outside temperature ni 26, itafanya monitoring, itafanya cooling to make sure the temperature is down to 24. Kama temperature is down let's say 20, it will raise it up to 24. So according to the set point and present value. And then we have water treatment plants, kwa mfano kucontrol labda dosing ama kucontrol the water levels, you know, and stuff like that, balance chemicals. We can use the PLCs. Okay, so now let's dive deep into a PLC hardware. So we say a PLC has it has a processor. Okay, it has a processor. This is the brain now of your PLC. And then we have a power supply. This gives power to the processor, 24 volt to the input interface and the output interface. We have a program and data memory. So program ambayo unaiandika inakuwa stored at program and data memory. We have a communication interface. Hapa kunaweza kuwa kuna wifi access ambapo kunakuwa labda kuna ethernet pia, kwamba ina PLC yako unaweza ukai access let's say kwa wireless. Unaweza kuwa unafanya distant programming, unaweza kuwa haupo exactly at the location where there is a PLC station, lakini unaweza uka access your PLC through some IP addresses ambazo zinatoka kwenye hii communication interface. And then you have a programming device. So programming device hapa ni kama laptop yako ambayo ndio unaandika ile program yako, afu mwisho wa siku unaiconnect either na USB ama na Ethernet cable to the PLC controller, ambao sasa ndio una download the program into your device, and then the device works on the logics. Okay, so starting with the processor. So I say the processor, this is the brain of your PLC. So it's also the CPU. So this processor processes the input signals. So inapokea input signal kutoka kwenye input interface, and also ina execute the logic, then ina execute the logic program, kwamba hapa kwenye input interface tuseme labda kuna sensor kama tulivyosema kwenye conveyor. Let's say kuna entry sensor na exit sensor. Entry sensor imesense, let's say there's a box in the conveyor, then inafanya logic execution of the program, kwamba program ulioipa processor, labda umeambia processor, if the sensor at the entry sees the box, switch on the conveyors. Manake now the processor sends output signal to the to control the devices, kwamba okay, there's a box at the entry, according to the program I have, please switch on the conveyor. Manake hapo sasa ita switch on the motor of the conveyor, right? So that's what the processor does. Receive an input, executes the logic program, sends output signals to the control devices, ambazo sasa output zinaenda kwenye actuators, input zimetoka kwenye input devices kama switches and sensors. Then we have a power supply. So this power supply is normally connected to the AC power. So it also converts the AC voltage ambayo ni 220 or 110 volt into low voltage DC ambayo 24 volt. So hii low voltage ndo ambayo inatumika kwenye kupower the processor, kupower input interface, kupower output interfaces to the 24 volt. So what you should know, PLC CPU sends a signal to the devices. So kwa mfano tunajua motor ambayo inaendesha conveyor inaweza ikawa inahitaji 220 volt, okay? Lakini PLC yenyewe ina run on 24 volt, right? So haimaanishi kwamba hii PLC ina supply power to the motor conveyor, to the conveyor motor. No, inatuma signal ya kuswitch on ama kuswitch off that motor. You get? So it's just a signal ambayo inakuwa kwenye 24 volt ambayo inaenda kuswitch on your motors. So the power supply normally supplies the power to the processor, as you can see here. Then supply the power to the input and output modules of your PLC. And then we have the input modules. So input modules zenyewe ama input interface ambayo ni hii hapa, yenyewe ina receive signal from the input devices. So input devices ni kama nini? Ni kama sensor and switches, right? And then it converts them into a form that the CPU process, kwamba Kwa mfano, let's say we have a vision sensor, right? And this vision sensor, when it's, let's say vision sensor, tunaitumia vision sensor, let's say kutofautisha color, kufanya color sorting. So let's say as vision sensor yetu inakuwa marked according to volts. Okay? Zile signals sasa ziko marked according to volts. Let's say let's say 1 to 10 volts. Sometimes a response inaweza kuwa in terms of currency 4 to 20 milliampere, lakini let's say we have volt 1 to 10 volt. So utakuta your sensor, a vision sensor, let's say a vision sensor ikiona a blue color, let's say it sends in 1 volt. Alafu let's say ikiona green color ina sensor 4 volts. Okay? So we see now the interpretation of this kwamba sensor imekuja kwenye input interface, sensor imesend let's say 1 volt, right? Ambayo inaenda kuwa interpreted by your processor kwamba this 1 volt represents blue color. Umeona? So input interface ina convert the signal ambazo zimetoka kwenye sensor ama input device into a form ambayo CPU yetu ambayo ni processor inaweza iprocess. Okay, so tumesema input devices ni kama sensors, switches and flow meters, etc. Right. Then we have output modules. So output modules sends control signals to the output devices. Okay, so nimesema output device inaweza kuwa ni motor. Kwa mfano kwenye conveyor kuna motor ambayo itakuwa signaled to start or to stop. Tunaweza kuwa kuna solenoid valves, open, close. Tunaweza kuwa na other actuators kama pneumatic actuators, you see, and we can have relays and other output like that. And then we have our programming device. So tumesema our programming device ni kama laptop ambayo unaitumia kutengeneza ile program sasa. You are creating a PLC program, let's say ladder logics, okay? Lakini pia inaweza kuwa HMI. HMI inakuwaga ni touch screen human machine interface ambayo inafungwa karibu na mashine husika ama plant husika, ambayo unaweza access uka edit some of the parameters. Let's say uka edit set values, labda what should be the highest pressure or what should be the highest temperature or what should be the lowest level and stuff like that, and then your PLC will be behaving in response to the parameters ambazo ziko preset. So anasema it can be a computer or dedicated PLC programming tool. Kwa mfano kama Siemens pia wana laptop ama PC zao ambazo zenyewe zinakuwa ni special for writing the PLC programs and downloading them to the PLC body and then run them. So what's the difference between a download and upload? Ni kwamba ukitengeneza program kwenye kompyuta yako, wakati unaingiza kwenye PLC ambayo PLC device ambayo let's say ni Siemens ama Allen Bradley, what happens is you are downloading the program to the device. Okay? You download the program to the device, kwamba unatoa kwenye PC yako ama personal computer kwenda kwenye device. But uploading inamaanisha kwamba unachukua program ambayo ipo kwenye device yako, okay? Program ambayo ipo kwenye device yako kuja kwenye kompyuta yako. Kwa mfano watu wakifunga mashine sehemu kwenye site fulani, labda wamefunga let's say a certain plant, let's say it's a packaging plant. Packaging plant ikifungwa kwenye kiwanda fulani, inafungwa, inafanywa commissioning, inawekwa na program husika ya kufanya the required packaging. Lakini let's say kumetokea miscalculations, ile packaging plant act right on some of the principles. Labda kuna discrepancies kwamba labda badala ya kupack 10 boxes yenyewe ina pack 9 boxes alafu inapeleka to the output. So someone has to upload the program ambayo iko installed kwenye hiyo PLC station, ataiupload aipate kwenye laptop yake. Akisha ipata anatafuta the blocks ambazo ziko responsible na a certain level of the network, labda packaging ama counters ambazo zinahesabu hizo boxes etc. Alafu angalie namna ambayo anaweza kuedit some blocks ambazo sasa zitabadilisha ile behavior ya system ku misbehave, and then baada ya kuiedit anaidownload again back to the PLC device, and then anairun, alafu anaangalia if it's now behaving right. Then we have a memory unit. So the memory unit, this is where we store the PLC control program. Ile program ambayo tumeitengeneza kwenye kompyuta ama laptop, tunavyo download kwenda kwenye PLC, inaenda kukaa kwenye program and data memory. Okay? Hapa kwenye program and data memories kuna vitu vingi, kuna EEPROM. So EEPROM ndo inakaa hii ladder logic. Okay? Alafu kuna temporary memories kama za registers ambazo tutaona huko mbele how they act and what they do. So this memory unit holds the data from input and all output devices. All right. And also it ensures the correct execution of the control logic. Okay. So I think this is a repetition. Let me see. Power supply, input, output, programming device, memory unit. All right, communication interface. So a communication interface facilitates data exchange between PLCs and other systems. So PLC inaweza ikawa interlinked na system nyingi kibao kibao. So inakuwa interconnected in a number of systems, okay? Ambazo zina different sensors na different actuators and stuff like that. And ina enable ile pia hii communication interface ina enable remote PLC operations and supervisory control, kwamba unaweza ukatengeneza programu mkafanya monitoring ya what's happening kwenye kiwanda while you are on distance, uko mbali lakini una access maybe through an IP address, through the communication interface, and then unaweza ukafanya maneuvering, unaweza ukastop some processes, unaweza ukapause, unaweza ukarestart, unaweza ukareset your system and stuff like that. It's also used for synchronization between multiple PLCs. Unaweza kwenye kiwanda kimoja unaweza kuwa na PLC kibao kibao ambazo sasa labda zinatakiwa ziwe monitored at once to see what's happening at what site ama what section. So a communication interface inasaidia kufanya interlinking and interconnection of multiple PLCs. Bravo! So I hope you have obtained a lot from this introductory presentation, and yeah, you're in the right direction. Nitakushauri tu wakati unapitia these presentations, make sure you are writing somewhere, you are taking notes, maybe you are looking on other resources to see more about the things that I've explained. Maybe utapata mwanga zaidi, and yeah, you're going to do great on this. So until the next slide, for now, ciao.